Hi everyone. This is my first webinar, so give me some lenience if I make any mistakes. We're gonna dive right into it. Let me first introduce myself. Um, Rafael, 21 years old, and I used to be a hockey player, and now I'm working in the personal development side a little bit, and I'm having great fun. And the reason why I'm doing this webinar is, first of all, I'm enrolled in a course, and one of my challenges was to do 4 presentations in December. And I thought, well, what could I do them on? And I thought I'll do them on one of them on the 3 most important personal development skills. So this is very subjective. There's not really like an objective most important skills, but I picked out the 3 most important ones that I think are invaluable, make you more successful. Okay, so let's get started here. So the 3 most important skills in personal development. I think to start this off, I will talk about proactivity and also in that context, more about procrastination. Okay, so that's a pretty big number, 657,000. That's the average hours a human being spends on Earth in their lifetime. That's roughly 75 years. So now think about this. You have 657,000 hours of life here on planet Earth. And what do you actually do with this time? So 25 years of those 75 years, you're sleeping. 1.1 year, you're cleaning. 3.66 years, you're eating. 1.5 years, you're spending in the bathroom. 4.3 years, you're on the train, riding the car. 9.1 years, you're watching TV. So let's break this down a little more. Now, you've already completed 56.66 years, or 496,341 hours. That's quite a lot. And that's just with tasks that are unavoidable and everyone basically has to do, except for maybe take out the 9.1 years for watching TV. Okay, so, but if we leave that in there, you're ending up with 161,840 hours, or 67,160 days. Now, this is very little time actually that you can make good use of, because all the rest of the time you're already spending on sleeping, eating, and other stuff. Now, let me introduce you to Bronnie Ware. She's an Australian nurse who spent several years working in palliative care, caring for patients in the last few weeks of their lives. She recorded their dying epiphanies. And I want to point out here one question in particular that she asked them. What do you regret? And think about this question for yourself for a moment and maybe try and figure out what they could have answered and what would be an answer you would give. Now, this answer might not come as a surprise to you that most people said that they wish they had the courage to live a life true to themselves and not the life others expect of them. That was the most common regret of all. When people realize that their life is almost over and look back clearly on it, it's easy to see how many dreams have gone unfulfilled. Most people have not even honored even half of their dreams and had to die knowing that it was due to choices they had made. And health brings a freedom very few realize until they no longer have it. We only have this one life to live, and it's pretty damn short. If you think about the number again, 67,160 days. So make it worthwhile. When you're being asked a question on your deathbed, in order for your answer to be different. But how do you actually do this? And what's the biggest obstacle on our way to this life? Well, I thought about this for a while, and I think that a lot of people face the same problem: procrastination. Now, if you look in the dictionary, it says that it's the action of delaying or postponing something. And now, the second part is pretty funny here. It says that the first tip is to avoid procrastination. Hmm, who would have thought that after decades of struggle with procrastination, the dictionary, of all places, would hold the solution? Avoid procrastination. So elegant and simple, actually. So while we're already here and talking about just avoiding procrastination, let's also make sure that obese people just avoid overeating, or depressed people avoid apathy. And someone tells beached whales, please, that they should avoid being out of the ocean. Now, you see, it's actually not that easy. To say that just avoid procrastination is really only good advice for fake procrastinators. Those people that are like, I totally go on Facebook a few times every day at work. I'm such a procrastinator. The same people that would say to real procrastinators something like, just don't procrastinate, dude, and you'll be fine. The thing that neither the dictionary nor fake procrastinators understand is that for a real procrastinator, procrastination isn't optional. It's something they don't know how to not do. And I can also share this with myself. I have a big problem procrastinating. And those of you that have the same issue exactly know what I'm talking about. It's hard and it's challenging and it's very, very difficult to overcome. Now, why do we procrastinate? I think that's a good question to ask here if you want to find out how to overcome it. And I want to go and use a few slides here that explain the concept a little easier. Here we have a non-procrastinator's brain. At this point, actually, by the way, I want to thank waitbutwhy.com for this incredible, incredible story and way of wrapping the whole theme up. So here we have a non-procrastinator's brain. Okay, looks pretty nice. There's a rational decision maker, and he does things that make sense. He thinks long term because he's not a child. Now let's look at a procrastinator's brain. Something's different here. Here we have, same as a non-procrastinator's brain, the rational decision maker, and now we have the instant gratification monkey. Now let's go on and see what the instant gratification monkey does. Okay, so he says, let's watch a bunch of YouTube videos on creatures of the deep sea and then go on a YouTube spiral that takes us through Richard Feynman talking about string theory and ends with us watching interviews with Justin Bieber's mom. And then goes on. Then we'll reorganize to-do lists, check stock prices on Amazon, split up our iPhoto albums into smaller, more specific albums. Maybe sounds familiar to you? That's what exactly happens to me all the time, too. I want to do certain things, and I end up going on Facebook, browsing through all the videos, watching funny videos, posts, whatever, and not getting anything done. But then it'll be too, and we have an appointment at 4:30, so it'll be too late to really start any work at that point. Makes sense. Happens to me too. Like I sit there, go on Facebook, then I realize, oh, in an hour I have to go to practice, and it doesn't make sense to start now because I can't put too much focus on it anyways. Now, and this leads into a never-ending spiral of procrastination. I'm fighting with this every day myself. Like, it's pretty funny, but this presentation actually was made in the last couple of days, almost working nonstop on it, whereas I could have started and finished it before Christmas because I thought it was more important to rearrange my room, which, by the way, looks awesome now. I can show you that later. Go on Amazon and browse through things I don't need anyways, and something I do a lot, refresh my inbox on my phone a million times. Now that we know about a little monkey, we need to find out how to train a monkey so it's actually working for us. And I think the best way to overcome procrastination starts with goal setting. Now, here it's very critical and crucial how we set our goals. You can just go out there and say, okay, tomorrow I will be productive. Or tomorrow I will go and build the next Amazon. It's not going to work. We have to do it smart. Okay. So, how does smart work? Well, basically, you take a goal, you make it specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and time bound. By the way, this is where I was telling you beforehand that for those of you who are watching live, I will offer some free bonus material. Please just shoot me a mail with your contact details, and I will forward you a great worksheet on how to say your goals smart. Everything's in there, like all the points that are here, plus some background information, plus how to actually get there with short-term goals and long-term goals. Okay. Now, what's the next point that we need to look at here now? Now, because setting our goals is just half of the way. It's nice to set goals, but if you never end up doing it, it's not any useful. So we need to be proactive and actually get the work done. Now, here's another great illustration to talk about this. So in the bottom, you have the dark playground. That's where you're watching all your videos, refreshing your emails, all that stuff. And you actually have to get to work. That's the entrance in the bottom. And it's hard. We all know it's hard. But you have to sit down and start and work your way up to the tipping point. Okay? That's where it's going to get interesting. Okay? Because after that, you move from a tough and not so nice working habit to the happy playground or flow. So once you're past the tipping point, you actually enjoy working. And that's the flow where you work and you forget to eat, you forget to sleep because you enjoy working so much on a project, you just don't want to stop. And here, lastly, I want to talk about a few practical solutions and something that you have to keep in mind. At the end of the day, it's all about you. You're the one responsible to hold yourself accountable and no one else. Pure fact. The next thing is you have to find the right people. You have to find people with the right attitude, with the right mindset, people that will push you, people that think the same way, and people that are driven and determined. If you have people that are negative, holding you back, it's not going to get you anywhere. Thirdly, you have to be consistent. It's not about just going and doing it once. You have to take a lot of small steps on the way. Okay? Small is going to get you there. Not if you say you want to start meditating and tomorrow you meditate for an hour straight, you're probably not going to meditate at all anymore. So start by meditating 2 minutes every day for a week. Then go and start meditating for 4 minutes for another week, and so on until you bump it up to maybe 15 minutes every day, half an hour. But you have to be consistent and take consistently small steps. And last, you have to be honest with yourself. You can tell your friends all you want. You can tell them you're busy and you're working so much and so hard. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter because you're the only person that knows honestly if you're doing it or not. And you have to be so responsible to be honest with yourself. Now, what are we really procrastinating on? Because everyone's procrastinating on something. Be aware of your instant gratification monkey. Since there's only so much time left, start today or maybe tomorrow sometime at least. Not just kidding. You should start now. I said for those watching live right now, I will have some bonus material. Again, just send me an email and I will forward you all you need to say your goals smart and get on track to be proactive. And look at this number again, just briefly 67,160 days. That's how much time you have. And that's the time you should make good use of. We'll move to a second topic now, which I personally learned a lot from hockey and I think is very, very, very important and super critical, and it's work ethic. Our generation gets told again and again we should follow our passion, find a dream job. The ultimate goal is self fulfillment. Your parents probably told you how unique you are, that you can achieve anything as long as you want it, and that the world is open to you. I'm sorry to tell you this, but it's bullshit. Because there's a few things that your parents left out to mention. The most crucial one is damn hard and smart work. Just talking the talk is not enough. You have to walk the walk. Now, you have to basically be so good they can't ignore you. I just read a book recently from Carl Newport, and it's called So Good They Can't Ignore You. And he sums it up very, very nicely. Okay? You have to adapt a craftsman mentality. Now, our generation mostly has a passion mentality. Like I already said, that follow your passion, follow your dreams, blah, blah, blah. Now, when you have a passion mentality, you ask the world what it can do for you. Always chasing the right work. But it's senseless to chase because what happens if you get there? It again won't be enough. And you're looking for the next better job. Here's also an interesting fact from a study that found out that only 45% of Americans described themselves as satisfied with their jobs in 2010. Now, listen closely. This number has been steadily decreasing from the mark of 61% recorded in 1987, the first year of the survey. Pretty interesting. Even though we should be more satisfied since everyone's following their passion, we're actually not. Now, what you can do is, and what you have to do is, you have to adapt a craftsman mentality where you ask what you can offer to the world. Now, this is where skill comes in. You have to work hard and develop a certain skill so well that people are willing to pay for it. It took Steve Martin, by his own estimation, 10 years for his new act to cohere, but when it did, he became a monster success. For those of you who don't know him, look him up. He's one of the most well-known comedians. And it's clear that in his telling that there was no real shortcut to his eventual fame. He said that eventually you're so experienced that there's a confidence that comes out. I think it's something the audience smells. And you have to be simply so good they can't ignore you. Now, let's look at three things that define great work. Like, how do you even get there? Well, it's basically creativity, impact, and control. The traits that define good work are rare. To have a rare work opportunity, one has to offer career capital in return. Now, when I say career capital, I mean a set of rare and valuable skills pertaining to one's career, which one has developed over time, and which I think leads back to hard and smart work. Because, it takes time and practice to develop a certain skill very well, a lot of it. You have to be patient and persistent. Persistent. We already talked about this before. Small steps, a lot of small steps, consistency, that's what's going to get you there. The second part of hard and smart is where I think it gets very interesting, the smart. Now, of course, there's a certain amount of time that you need to necessarily put in to get to a basic level. Everyone knows that, but what I think a lot of people don't realize is that the difference between good and great is the way you work. Now, let me tell you a little story here. I'm coaching hockey and I see the same thing with my kids. There's a huge difference between just going on the ice through the motions, not really pushing oneself, and taking. And then there you have the ones that are really making best use of it, that are pushing themselves to try harder, that stay alert, to be more engaged. And you can see the difference between two players spending the same amount of time on the ice in a gym, but the one that works hard and smart will be a lot further ahead than the other one. There's a saying one of my coaches like to say often: hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard. Now, I grew up playing alongside some very talented hockey players that now either quit hockey or play in some beer league. Why? Because they just didn't work hard and smart and they got outworked. And then there's one guy that I briefly want to tell you about. So he was not even anywhere close to being a hockey player. And he just outworked, outsmart everyone on and off the ice. And if you would have bet back in the days, everyone would have probably bet against him for him to become a pro, like even earn any money at all. And now he's earning pretty good money playing in the first German Pro League. Not so bad for a 21-year-old, if you ask me. Now, I want to give you some numbers to back this up a little bit here. In the game of chess, people wanted to see what distinguished intermediate players and the grandmasters. They found that hours spent in serious study of chess was not just the most important factor in predicting chess skill, it dominated the other factors. The researchers discovered that the players who became grandmasters spent 5 times more hours dedicated to serious study than those who plateaued at an intermediate level. The grandmasters, on average, dedicated around 5,000 hours out of their 10,000 hour to serious study. The intermediate players, by contrast, dedicated only around 1,000 to this activity. Now, if you look at this number, pretty interesting if you ask me. So, what else do you have to do in order to achieve greatness? Like working hard and smart is all nice and well, but how else do you get there? What else is important? I think in order to achieve real greatness, you have to go out of your comfort zone. You have to push yourself and challenge yourself because this is ultimately the only way to get really good at something. It's easy to be in your comfort zone, like watching TV, but really good work is achieved outside your comfort zone. When you get outside of your comfort zone, it doesn't mean that you should strive for a constant state of anxiety and stress. It simply means that in order to grow, you should try new things and expand your horizons. The reasons we're comfortable in our comfort zone is because we're not taking risks when we're in this state. When we live in our comfort zones, we're living life like hamsters on a wheel, going around and round in a constant cycle, but going nowhere in our lives. Now, I want to come back a little bit to the concept of thinking big and acting small. You have to take little bets. Project, for example, that create new value and can be done in a short time, like a month, and produce concrete results for feedback and learning. Like you could start learning a new language, for example, and then after that, talk to someone in that language and see what they tell you. Now, you never know what you end up with, you know, but be careful because there's things that you should avoid when picking a path. You should avoid a job with few opportunities, a job you feel is useless, and a job you don't like, the people around. So, for those of you who know me, also know that I was working for a catering company until recently, and I was really unhappy. I felt I wasn't growing, I wasn't challenged. There were zero opportunities, and for me, it felt pretty senseless. And towards the end, I didn't enjoy the people around me either. Now, I felt like I was basically trading my time for some cash. I finally, after bragging myself and dragging myself through for way too long of a time, and 2 days after I quit, parents of a kid I used to coach called me up and asked me to give private lessons to their child, which I'm now doing on a regular basis. And on top of that, they're paying me really good money to do that. So I went from useless, no opportunities, and a job I didn't like to the very opposite. I'm now in control, I have impact, and I can use my creativity because I'm designing all the practices. You might say to me now that I got lucky and I was fortunate and I might have had it easy, but that's not the case. let me give you a quick overview of when I started and where I am now. So I started coaching when I was 14 years old, and basically by just helping out with small kids. I started to do more and more, and now, after a few years of acquiring career capital, learning from very smart and skilled coaches, I'm now running an entire goalie section of a team. I'm coaching with the under 16s national team, and I will run my own goalie camp this summer. How did I get there? By practice. And like I said, by collecting career capital, learning, doing, and so it didn't really happen overnight. And the parents didn't just call me up because they couldn't think of anyone better. No, they did because I am good at what I do, and I'm a little bit of an expert in my field. Is there still a long way to go? Oh boy, yes, there is, and well aware of it. Well aware of it. But I'm taking small steps and bets, like running my own camp this summer, at a time to get there. You have to think big and act small. And keep in mind that all starts with the right goal setting. Now, lastly, I want to move to something that I think a lot of people overlook, but is very, very, very crucial. And that is confidence. Now, what is confidence? In the pure sense, it's basically knowing what you're good at, the value you provide, and acting in a way that conveys that to others. Now, you have to distinguish that though with arrogance, which usually involves believing you're better in a particular area than you are, or low self esteem, which involves believing you're less valuable than you think. The better your self assessment is to that reality in the middle, and the more you behave accordingly, the closer you are to displaying healthy confidence. Why does this definition matter? If you want to raise your confidence to a level that helps rather than harms you, it's important to know what you're aiming for. Keep in mind that blindly thinking positive won't necessarily help you, and it's possible to go too far. In some cases, the later is referred to as the Dunning-Kruger effect. Namely, it's when someone overestimates their own abilities, displaying more confidence than their skill levels deserve. Now, what does it matter? Like, why do we need confidence? Well, I think confidence is one of those traits that can become a they can become a greater deal that we think is good, but ask us to the point to the specific reasons why anyone should want it, and we can only point to vague hypotheticals. Like, there's no real definition for it, but good that there's scientific proof of what confidence can actually do for us. Now, it shouldn't be a surprise that being more confident at work can mean more promotions. There was a pilot study at the University of Melbourne that found correlation between confidence level as early as primary school and success in the workplace as adults. This doesn't just apply to the workplace either, because another study by the University of Texas showed that students who received some expression of confidence in their from their professor, even while receiving criticism, performed better later on those who were simply told to aim for higher standards. Now, I think all of you know who that is. Muhammad Ali, one of the greatest boxers of all time. And you'd probably agree with me that he was very confident. And I like to share a quote here with you. He said that I am the greatest. I said that even before I knew I was. Now, Think about this for a second again. He knew that he was the greatest even before he actually knew he was. And I think his success is proof that he was probably right. Now, here I want to share a personal story with you. Last season, I was playing hockey, and I had a player on my team, and everyone that was there with me knows exactly whom I'm talking about when I tell this. So he was absolutely without talent. Couldn't skate, shoot, pass, you name it. But he had one thing: a ton of confidence. Far more than anyone else. And that's why he ended up fifth in scoring, earning major ice time, special teams time, and ultimately the coach's trust. Whereas other far more talented players with more potential weren't even close. At the beginning of the season, people, like even the coaches, were certain he would barely get any ice time, let alone score a single lucky goal. And then he ended up fifth in scoring. I was very fascinated by him, and I thought, and it taught me a big lesson that a lot of people don't actually realize how much happens in your head and the way we deal with the world. With the right attitude, mindset, and self confidence, you can compensate for a lot of obstacles. Now, what can you do to actually improve your confidence? Now that we talked about what it does for us, I think it's good to give some practical advice. Now, one thing um, that I think is, and people underestimate that a lot, is to work out. The effects of working out on your confidence are so overwhelming they can be understated. When you exercise, your body releases a cocktail of endorphins that make you feel pretty good as is. When you're done, you have tangible proof that you've done something constructive, and everything in your body is programmed to second that response. If you keep at it long term, healthier body becoming more and more visible. The next one is, people that know me probably laugh at this one a little bit, but I think it's very important to dress accordingly. Now, if you look at these two guys here, they're dressed up as superheroes. Do they look confident? Yeah. Now, when I say dress accordingly, I don't mean you have to throw on a suit and tie. It means that assess and improve your wardrobe, and you may not realize what a dramatic effect it will have. And just start by throwing on stuff that you feel comfortable in. If it's a t-shirt and a pair of jeans, do it. Now, the next one I think is awesome. Smile. Well, if you think about it, when someone is smiling, aren't you drawn in? Don't you enjoy the person's company more? I think we all do. Smiling is a very important part of confidence, as research has shown that smiling releases endorphins in our brain, which in return makes us more confident. Let's try something together here. I want you to smile, like right now. Go ahead, smile. Awesome. Now, let's do it again, but this time, breathe in through your nose, let it out through your mouth, and smile as you let the air out. Doesn't it feel good? The breathing is very important. Your nostrils are attached to the limbic system, and that controls your emotions. So when you breathe in deep through your nose, it has a calming effect on you. So Breathe in and smile. The next one, I think, is pretty easy to do as well and has a great effect. Your body language. Now, if you look at this fine young gentleman, which one do you think looks more confident to you? I think we all agree if we say the one on the left. Now, much of how our mind works can be affected by what our body is doing. Science has our back here. Ohio State University has done research that standing in certain positions, such as outstretched arms or fist in the air, can improve testosterone levels and help us feel more confident. And this example right here also shows that if you're standing upright with your chest out, elongated neck, your head up, you're also taller. Whereas when you have a crooked back and your abdominal is bent in. Now, lastly, and I think that is on a very personal note here, you have to fix things you don't like about yourself. As much as it might hurt to say, sometimes the problem isn't your attitude or your emotions. Sometimes you need to change some things. This doesn't have to mean you're a bad person or not good at things, but it does mean that if you want to be more confident in a particular area, the best way to do so is to get better. Where we come back to point 1 and 2 that we talked about. Feel crappy because you can't play the guitar? Practice. Do conversations about politics or economics make you feel unintelligent? Read up about it. Ask for help. There's nothing wrong with admitting you don't know something, but pretending you do when you don't won't help your confidence. Underneath it all, most of these tricks all center around one theme: making you feel better about doing things you're good at or who you are. There's no surefire pattern that will make you 100% more confident overnight. But if you work at it hard and smart, it can pay off. Now, I want to thank everyone that released this awesome resources that I used here, and want to thank every one of you for joining me, for tuning in. Please make sure to leave me some feedback, shoot me an email, or send me a text, or whatever it might be. And I'll be happy to answer and use your feedback for further presentations. Thanks again. I hope you enjoyed it, and Happy New Year, everyone.